Maybe in your town you were growing up, or in the same block that you grew up on as a kid, had that one house where the family was a little weird and the house was kind of creepy. Or maybe even right now as an adult you have one of those in your neighborhood. Well, this film definitely explores that, but in a fun way. Let's get into it. Welcome back to my channel. Hope you're all doing well out there. And today we're going to talk about a black comedy or a horror comedy. I can see it going either way with this one. But before we get into it, like, comment, and subscribe. Join me here. I greatly would appreciate that. Today we're going to talk about 1989's The Burbs. Yes, this movie came out February 17th of 1989. It's rated PG, and it's an hour and 42 minutes long, had a budget of $18 million, and upon release it made 36 in America and 49 worldwide, so it was a nice little hit for Universal Studios. And if you hear construction work going on, it's because I'm having work done to the outside of my house, and I can't go tell them to stop, so it is what it is. Now, they tapped no other than Joe Dante to direct this film. Joe Dante is clearly no stranger to horror or comedy. He did Piranha in the 70s, The Howling, which is considered one of the greatest werewolf movies of all time, Gremlins, Inner Space, so on and so forth. Now, cast-wise, we got a great little cast here. Tom Hanks plays Ray Peterson. He's this guy who is having stress problems in his life, and he took a week off of work, and his plan is to stay at home and not go to the cabin like they do up to the lake like they do every year. He just wants to sit around the house, do a couple projects, and drink some beer. The great Bruce Dern plays Mark Rumsfeld, and he is Ray Peterson's neighbor from right across the street. And Carrie Fisher plays Carol Peterson, Ray's wife in this film, and she's fantastic here. Corey Feldman plays Ricky Butler. He is the son. His parents are away for a week, and he is going to be painting his house, and he's one of the neighbors across the street as well. We got Courtney Gaines in this movie as Hans Klopek. He lives the creepy neighbors next door, and Courtney Gaines played Malachi in Children of the Corn. The great Dick Miller and Robert Picardo in here as well, and Joe Dante tries to put them in every film he ever does, and they play a couple of trash men who play a small role, but a funny one partway into the film. Now, this film is basically an examination of the burbs. The perfect, idealistic neighborhood where everybody's grass is cut perfectly, and their houses, they paint their houses, and they do all this, the regular mundane stuff of owning a house. They go to work, they come home, they cut their grass, they paint their houses, and although some of Ray's neighbors seem to be home all the time, but that's besides the point. This is just a movie after all. And it does but it injects the comedy and this little bit of a horror element where these neighbors are kind of creepy. Ray spots them at night in a rainstorm digging up their backyard. They're very odd folks. Now, they could just be normal folks, and they just have, they don't want to be left alone. They're introverts, and they just want to do their thing and not be neighborly. And I get that, but we all have, when we were growing up, we all had that one house in town that was considered maybe haunted or something bad happened, or if you don't know if it's true or not. And this house definitely fits that bill. Anyway, Art, Ray's one neighbor who always seems to have all these big ideas, but never wants, he never wants to be held responsible for any things he actually does. His wife's away for the weekend, so he comes over and he's talking about the Klopeks are, they're murderers or stuff like that. And Ray's like, come on, man, stop fooling my kid's head with all this nonsense, And before you know it, some creepy, weird shit's happening at the Klopeks house, and Art, Ray, and Rumsfeld from across the street start investigating and snooping around, trying to figure out what the hell's going on. There's some great comedy moments, and then towards the end of the film, they actually break into their house while they're away for the day to try to find skeletons once Ray's convinced that they killed Walter, their other neighbor. So they go in, Ray hits the gas line, the place blows up, and we get that great scene of him walking out, almost like a zombie, half his face is burnt, and he kind of slides down the steps in a great little comedic moment. And the end of the film, we find out that the Klopeks really did kill the Knapps, the old neighbors, and they have a trunk full of bones, and they get arrested, and we have a happy ending. And that is pretty much The Burbs. What to like about this film? Well, first of all, the cast. The cast is awesome here. Tom Hanks was great at being in comedies in the 80s. I love him in Money Pit, Bachelor Party. He makes Bachelor Party, besides all the wild antics going on. If it wasn't for Tom Hanks, that movie wouldn't work as well as it does. The Money Pit works because of Tom Hanks. Well, him and his chemistry with Shelley Long, but Tom Hanks was great in comedies in the 80s, and it's no different here. And him and Bruce Dern and the guy who plays Art really do have great chemistry, and he has good chemistry with Carrie Fisher. All around, this cast is fantastic. Everybody has their little part to play in this funny little tale about suburbia. And it definitely is a black comedy, and I'd even say it's a horror comedy, because we do see, these people are serial killers pretty much. And they do explore, they definitely dive deep into, like, people on idealistic streets are nosy and they're watching what everything their neighbor does, and they criticize their neighbor if they don't cut their grass on time and all this kind of little stuff. And they definitely poke fun at those kinds of things. But at the end of the day, this is just a really fun time at the movies. I mean, besides the great cast, there's some really funny moments, and there's just moments that make me smile every time I watch this. This is a film I saw right after it hit VHS back in 1990. I remember my parents renting it. We watched it, and it became a regular staple for me. I remember renting this off and on, well, probably about once a year to watch this, and I own it on Blu-ray now, and it's just a fantastic little movie. I don't really have anything negative to say about it, but some trivia here. Walter's dog, Queenie, is the same dog that was Buffalo Bill's little white dog in Silence of the Lambs. Tom Hanks improvised the scene where he picks up the gurney at the end after he's been blown up, and he throws it into the ambulance, and he gets on and he goes, "Take me to the hospital, I'm sick, I've been blown up." He actually improvised that. And when we're having breakfast in the morning, after we have our initial setup and Art comes in, he starts eating everything, there's actually a box on the counter while they're eating breakfast of Gremlins cereal, which Joe Dante directed Gremlins, and Corey Feldman was in Gremlins as well. And there's a scene where Ray is sitting in his bedroom watching TV, and there's 3 horror movies that he changes channels from. One is Race with the Devil, the first one, The Exorcist, and Texas Chainsaw 2. And when Ray has his nightmare during the film, they basically recreate the sacrificial scene from Race with the Devil, only it's more comedic and it's a little bit more over the top. But they Joe Dante does kind of recreate that scene from Race with the Devil. If you've never seen that movie, check it out, by the way. It's a kick-ass movie. Overall, at the end of the day, this just has a fun cast with a fun little script that's really funny. There's some really funny shit, and they reference other horror films. They reference The Sentinel and other things, and they talk about like this guy that goes postal like years ago and killed his whole family, and they really dive deep into the horror aspect, but it's always with a tongue-in-cheek attitude and a wink at the camera. It's never taken too seriously, but it's just a fun movie. It's well acted. It's well directed by Joe Dante, and this was the street that they're on was on the Universal backlot. The one house was from the Monsters. They just redesigned it. And the other house, Ray's house, is Leave It to Beaver's house from that TV show. So it's just a really cool little comedy that takes place in one location on this cul-de-sac in the street. And it's just a fun time at the movies. It's a movie I've always enjoyed. I really don't have anything negative to say about it. It's not what I would say mind-blowingly good, but it's just a fun time. You can sit down, just have fun, and watching these people are like getting together with a couple of friends and watching the antics unfold in front of you. So at the end of the day, I would give The Burbs a 9.5 out of 10. That's right, a 9.5 out of 10 for The Burbs. What are your thoughts on this film? Leave a comment down below, let me know. Hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, share it. It's really great, would appreciate that. I'll be back soon with my final Predator review for AVP Requiem. But until then, I hope you're all doing well out there, and bye.